everyone. My name is Hardy Martinez, and we are back on the Android Studio series. And with me is Kristen. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Hardy. Hi, everybody. We are going to be working through Pathway 4 of the No Prior Programming Experience Android track, and I will let Hardy explain what we're going to be doing today.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the prerequisites. This is the second day of the series, and in the last day, we went through pathways unit 1, 2, 3. Unit 1, pathway 1, 2, 3, and we learned a lot of things. We learned about the Kotlin programming language. We learned about the basics of the programming language. We learned about Visual Studio, Android Studio, sorry. And we installed Android Studio, and we learned about layouts. We designed the layout for a simple birthday card application. And yeah, that's about it. And we are ready to continue. You need to have a computer. You need to have some headphones so you can hear us, internet connection. And you could use an Android device. Otherwise, you can use the emulator that comes with Android Studio, which we learned how to use the last time. Oh, the recap. So as I said, so we went through activities, pathway, 1, 2, 3. And today we're going to go over pathway 4, which is gonna be on developing a dice rolling app. And then at the end of the pathway, you're gonna earn a badge. Today's schedule. We're gonna have a quick presentation, the first 15 minutes. Then we are going to start going over pathway 4. We're going to develop an app where we're gonna add a button. We're gonna add some images, and we are going to code that app so it's gonna roll a dice and give us a number.
Really cool, you guys, because we're going to be adding user functionality to the app. Or interactivity.
Along the way.
Sorry, go ahead, Hardy.
Yeah, along the way, we're going to learn about how Android applications work. We're going to learn what an activity is, because Android applications are composed of activities. And well, an activity provides the window in which the app draws its UI. And you can have more than one. When you switch between windows, you're switching between activities in an Android application. We're going to learn about classes and objects. We're going to learn what the difference between a class and the instance of an object is. Over here, we can see that a class is like the blueprints to create an object. It's like when you have the blueprints for building a house. The blueprints are not the house. The house itself that is built using the blueprints, that's the house. So that the blueprints is the class, and the house itself is the object, is the instance of that blueprint or class. Let's get started. It's useful, and we talked about this at the last event. It's useful to have two windows side by side. So on one side, you can see the presentation we're going over. You will be able to see the pathway and the steps that we're going over. And on the other side, you can have the Kotlin Playground. And the Kotlin Playground, if you were not in the last session, the Kotlin Playground is it's a web application where you can write a Kotlin code and you can run it right there. There's a run button that you can just click and see the result. Then we're also, at the beginning of the session, we're going to use Kotlin Playground. But then we're going to go into building an actual Android app. And for that, you're going to be using Android Studio. So again, it's useful to have the two windows side by side. And if you get stuck, you can ask for help. There is the Q&A in there. And Renee, I didn't even introduce Renee. Hi, Renee.
Hi, everybody. I'm here to support. I'll be in the chat. I am the just one of the team members here, and excited to get into this session.
Yeah, so she's going to help us with the questions.
Thank you so much, Renee.
So, okay, let's start with the series. And let me just go back to here. We're going to have two breaks, one at 1 and the second break at 2, both of them of 15 minutes. And get started. So here I am on pathway 4 of the first unit. And if is everybody on this page already? Okay. If you are not on this page, a link is going to be posted on the chat so we can get going. First of all, let's learn about classes and objects. I don't want to sign in. So you need to have the Kotlin Playground. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building an application where we can roll a dice. And when you roll the dice, this is a 6-sided dice, and it's going to give us a number from 1 to 6, which is what you expect from rolling the dice. And we're going to start writing the classes. And so we are not going to start on Android Studio yet, because we want to isolate the code itself, the code that does the rolling the dice without having to worry about the user interface yet. We just want to make sure the functionality for rolling the dice is there. And we're going to start learning about random numbers. So a random number, it's if you have a range of numbers between 1 and n, and then you pick a random number. There is a class, there is an int range class that is provided by Kotlin. So you can declare a variable, and you give it a name, and you can say this class is going to be of type int range, which is the object type, the variable type. And then you say it's going to be from 1 to 6. And these are specific Kotlin syntax. So now, from that range of numbers, you can pick a random number. So, and since dice range is a range, and it comes with some functionality already, some methods that you can run on it. And you can say that I am going to get a random number from my dice range, just like this. And then oops. And then we can print it. We can print a random number just like this.
Oh, Hardy, we have a question from the chat. So does it matter for where it says int range equals 1 period, period 6, does it matter if we put in 6 periods versus 2 periods? Or not 6 periods, 3 periods, or a different number of periods versus 2?
So it's gotta be 2, because this is the syntax. There is a difference. You could have 3. Let's run it. So the integer literal does not conform to the expected type int range. So Kotlin expects to have 2 dots in between the numbers. I believe there is another expression in Kotlin that takes 3 dots. I don't remember on top of my head what that expression is for. We can look it up later if you want. But
no, that's good. It's good to know.
For an int range, it's 2 dots. And it's inclusive. Inclusive meaning that it will take the 1 and it will include the 6 as well. So it's a range from 1 to 6. And this is nice because I like that if I declare a range from 1 to 6, I know I'm getting the 1 and I am getting the 6 as well. In some other programming languages, this range can be inclusive for the first value and exclusive for the second, meaning that it's going to be 1 below the last. And I believe that's the case for Python. But in Kotlin, it's inclusive. You get both of these numbers. Now, there's a nice thing about Kotlin. Kotlin is smart enough to infer from what you give it on the right side of the equal sign. So it knows that this is a range. So you don't need to say that it's an int range. You can omit that. And you can just run it like that, and that will work. Now, if you're not familiar with this syntax, in Kotlin, unlike some other programming languages, like if in Java, you will have to declare a variable like int dice range, something like this, right? But in Kotlin, you put a colon after the name of the variable and then the type, like this. And if the type can be inferred from the expression on the right-hand side of the equal sign, you don't need to. So you can just get rid of this, and the code is much more compact. That's about it from random numbers. And let's print this. Let's print this a little nicer. If you remember from the last session, you can insert a variable just like this using this sort of notation right here. Oops. So we can say random, if I can type, oops, random number, and that will print it nicely like this. And this is the way you embed a variable value inside a string in Kotlin. And that is about it for this. Now we go to the second part. It's always nice, like if you have something like this, right? I have a dice from 1 to 6 right now. What if I want a dice from 1 to 12? Now I can just change that right there, right, and run it. But what if every time, let's say I want to have this 6 right here, but then I want to have a second one that is a dice, that is a 12-sided dice. That will look kind of funny. But oh yeah, I will have to rename this to two. So so you see how convoluted this is. Yeah, just probably print the line here. But you see, I'll have to copy, change the name of the variables. So a better solution is to have an object, a dice object, that I can decide how many sides that dice object is going to be, and get the random number from there, right? How do I create that object? Or how do I tell Kotlin how to create that object for me? The way I do that is I write a class. I write a class, and in the class, remember, this class is the blueprints, right? And what this class is going to have is this class is going to have all that Kotlin needs to know to be able to create that object. It's like having the blueprints with all the descriptions of the house that's going to be built. In this case, it's going to be a dice. And then, what does a dice have? A dice has size. So I'm going to declare a variable size. And then I'm going to say, oh, let's make it 6. And then usually an object has it has some features, it has some characteristics like size, and these are sometimes called properties. These are sometimes called members of a class. But let's say they are features, they are properties. And then it also has some sort of behavior. That behavior is just like everything, right? Like I have a name, I have a last name, I have an age, and I can move, I can talk, and I can code. I hope so. I hope I can. And so the dice has size for now. And let me get rid of this. So now I can declare a new dice using my dice class. And then from there I can print the size of my dice. I'm gonna do here. And then, so what happened there? Kotlin is taking this class over here. My dice is the object that was created from this class. And then for now, it only has sides, right? So I'm printing the sides. Now, I wanted to give me a different value depending on the random number, a random value when I roll it, right? So I'm going to give it a behavior. I'm going to give my class a behavior. I'm going to say that I can roll that dice. And when I roll the dice is going to give me a different number every time. So now, remember how we created a range, right? So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to create a range, and you can see we can do it like we did it before. We can create a random range. Oops. Random range from 1 to 6, and then why is it auto completing? And then from there, I can get a random number that is going to be random range random. And then I can print in there. That's what I'm going to do for now. I can print So, and then I'm just gonna say here, my dice roll. That's what, like when I tell my dog to roll and he doesn't listen to me. And then we see, so when we say my dice roll, dice has size, so I printed the size first, and then I tell it to roll. And when I tell it to roll, it goes and it runs this function right here. And it gives me a 1. Now, if I run it again, I should be getting up. Am I so lucky that I am only rolling 1? Oh, no, now it rolled 4. 4 again, 2. So you see, it's a different value every time because it's random. And it's 1 to 6. It's a good chance that 2 numbers are going to fall right after the other. Now, here, I can skip one. I can skip one line. I can condense this code a little more. So you see, this 1 to 6 is a range. It's an integer range. So I can just grab that integer range and I can call random on it. So my random number comes right from there. So I save myself a line. How cool is that? Now, it's right now we only have a 6-sided dice that can roll and print a number. Now, usually what you want is it's not for your method or your function to print something to the screen, right? We want to get that number so we can do something else with it, so we can present it in our application. So what we do in that case, we make it so instead of printing to the screen, this method returns a value. Now, how do we tell Kotlin that we want that method to return a value? Usually in some other programming languages, when you declare the function, you say, let's say, if it's not going to return anything, you name it void. If you want to return an integer, you say this returns an int or something like that. In Kotlin, we use this notation. So after the function declaration, function definition, we put a colon, and then we tell it what type of what the return value type is going to be. And in this case, it's going to be an integer. So we say it's an int. And then instead of printing, we say return a random number. Now, this function, instead of printing, is returning a value. But let's run it. Only what I am printing out here is printed, because now there's nothing to print there. It returns a value, but I am doing nothing with it. So then what I need to do is I need to store. I can store my random number in a variable, and then I can print it here. oh, yay, that worked. So I'm storing the return value in a variable. And notice that I didn't have to tell Kotlin what type this variable is. I could have done this. And that works. Right?
Oh, Hardy, I have a question. So I noticed on the print, right, when after it's run on the bottom, it says your curly bracket, my dice.sides.
Yeah, I missed that. That's a typo.
So
yeah, it was missing the dollar sign.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's yeah, the dollar sign, curly braces, and curly braces. It's what tells Kotlin that what is inside the string is a variable, not the string literal.
So Kotlin doesn't know even if you have the curly braces that there's.
Even if you have the curly braces, you need the dollar sign. If it's like that, it doesn't know. So you're gonna just print it like that. That's the way. So yeah, so we need the dollar sign. So now I didn't have to tell it that is an integer because it knows that this function returns an integer. Therefore, the value that goes into our variable is an integer. Now, we could also do this. Let's just take this, put it in here, and I can get rid of this line. So the value that comes in here is the return value from the function. And now, so we have a dice that is a 6-sided dice that can give us a random number. Now, what if we want to create different dices that have different sides, the different side numbers, like 8 or 12, 24, whatever. So how do we do that? How do we tell?
I think last session, we had we were giving we were passing in something that would change the functionality of our object, of our functions. So in this case, could we change the functionality of our objects in a similar way?
We can do that. Let's do something else first. Let's change this size. Remember, size is a member, is a feature of our dice. What if I say, okay, my dice now has 12 sides, right? I changed the dice to have 12 sides. Now, over here, instead of saying random number 1 to 6, I'm going to say 1 to sides, right? Will that work? Let's see. It does work. It rolled 12, right? So we change the behavior of the dice. We change the feature of the dice on the fly, but usually that's not what you want, because if you have a 6-sided dice, you cannot just turn a 6-sided dice into a 12-sided dice. I mean, that would require a lot of crafting. Yeah, no, usually that's not what you want, but you can do it. You can say, yeah, I want my dice now to be a 20-sided dice, and then roll me an 18. So what you usually want is that when you create this dice right here, you should be able to tell Kotlin how many sides that you want that dice to have to be. right? And the way you do that is when you declare the class, you can tell Kotlin that you want to pass a value when you create an instance of that class. And that, we haven't talked about what an instance is. And this is a word that is used a lot in computer science, in software development. An instance here, an instance there. So an instance is basically one object that was created from that blueprint. Think of a house complex that has a whole bunch of houses that have the same design, and they were all made from the same blueprints. And yeah, some may have different features, of more or less bathrooms, but they were all created from the same blueprints. So each one of those houses is an instance. Same here, every dice that you create from this class is an instance, and we can pass those features that we're going to say. We're saying these features can be different for every instance. The instances will have commonalities. We have things that are equal. We have they will all be able to roll a random number depending on the size. But we're saying, oh, we could have dices with different side numbers. So that's what we're going to do here. So we say we're going to pass a variable, and I'm going to say this is a number of sides, and then I am saying that we want that variable to be an integer. And we want to say this because we don't want people trying to pass some other thing into our object, into our instantiation of the object. And then we can get rid of this because we don't need it anymore, because this will become a member of a class. And this is specific for Kotlin. It works differently for other programming languages. But in Kotlin, you can just get rid of that line. And now we don't have sides, right? Now we have num sides. So now we cannot use this because that won't work anymore. And we have to pass the number of sides when we create the class, when we instantiate the class. And now these we don't have sides, so this won't work. And I'm going to get rid of this line since it's not doing much in it anyway. We don't have sides, so now a member of the class is num sides. That's the name, and can still roll as a number. And let's run it. You see, the behavior is the same. And then let's say I create another dice. Let's try another dice. Call it my second dice. Yeah, I'm creative like that.
The variable and function names makes it so much easier to keep track of everything.
Yeah, me too. And it's a lot of people like to abbreviate things. I prefer to just type it if it's not too long, and it's better to be explicit, so you can read your code better. And this should work. The first one is a 6-sided dice. The second one is a 12-sided dice. Now there's another thing, and the pathway doesn't talk much about this, but here I can still change num sides to something else. 8 in this case. Oh, I was wrong. Cannot be reassigned. Let's see. Oh, it's interesting. So that is good. That's the behavior that we want. What if I declare it like this? Oh, yeah, look at that. If I declare it like this, it will still take another number and work accordingly. And then sometimes you want to declare this private, like saying, I want this to be, I want people to be able to change this, or at least I want my class, my own class, to be able to change this inside using functions, but I don't want this to be publicly available. And so you see, now you can't even access this here because it's not publicly available. Then in that case, if you want to get the number of size, you have to declare a function get size numbers. And then that to return non-size, right? And then here you would say get size number. And then that will work for the first one. Well, it's not going to run because I need to change everything. And then I can just comment this out. Oh, this is now needs to return an integer. So now it works. So you see, by declaring this private, we are creating a private member of that class. It's done differently with other programming languages, but in this case, declaring it as a constant is fine. So you won't be able to change it because val declares that as a constant, and meaning you can access it from the outside, but you can't change it. And I know the pathways don't talk about this. I just wanted to, we can still have this. I just wanted to give you some extra information. Now, we have a random number. We have a dice that can be created with a specific number of sides, and it gives us a random number, right? Now, what else? Adopt good coding practices. And this is something nice. This is something that I didn't know when I started doing the series. You can, we want our code to be as compact as possible and as readable as possible, right? We want that is good coding practices. I feel like this is pretty good. I feel like my code is readable, and people will be able to understand what my code is doing. There's one thing I could do. Instead of creating this random number, this is I am creating a variable just to return it. There's nothing else really going on with that variable. It's a variable that is there to be used once, and it's a random number from a range, which is this. I understand that this is a random number from a range that I am returning, so I can just take that, and I can just return it, and I don't need this line, and that will become a one-liner, and we can even write it like this if you want. I don't really like that type. It doesn't feel readable to me, so I prefer to do this, but that is me. Yeah, we reduce the number of lines, and it's very readable. Now, there is another thing that we could do, and where is it? Well, I think that's it. That's it for this part. And that is the solution. Yeah, my solution has an extra function, but it is about the same. And let's, in summary, what did we learn? We learned how to create a random number, how to generate a random number from a range, and how integer range data types are created in Kotlin. We learn how to create a class, how to make our class have different properties and different functionality, different behavior, and how to make the class return us a value and use that value from our main class over here. And we learn how to instantiate an object from a class. We learn the difference between classes and instances of a class. That's about it. If you want to learn more, you can go to these links, but and then also practice on your own. That is always good. Never just stay with what you learned so far. Always go explore and see what happens when you change things around. Just what I did before. Just you need to do that in order to learn. We're done with this.
That's perfect. Let's take a break now, since it's right around break time, right before we start the next little segment.
Hello, everyone. I hope you had a really good break, and I hope that you're ready to continue. Now we are going to start designing our application. And we're going to do this in Android Studio. We have learned how to create a class. We have learned how to make that class return us a random number. And now we are going to design how the application is going to look like on our Android devices. The first thing that we're going to, and then we're going to learn, how to insert a button. We have learned before about the different views, text views, and buttons, and how all of those are different views. And we have also group views that have different layouts. We are going to get back to that today. If you don't remember, we are going to have a refresher. First of all, we are going to set up our project. Let's see. It's not loading. Is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, I'm just going to. It's loading. Online. Let's create a new project. And we're going to create an empty activity. We're gonna name this dice roller. I like how the package name and the location gets already assigned depending on the name of our application and everything. It's very consistent. I like that. I'm going to pick Android 5 because it's telling me that it's going to run on 94.1% of devices, and I think that's enough. Let me just close this one out. And this dice roller. I think Android view is good. It's just loading. this gives us a basic application. And as you remember, the main activity .kt, that's the Kotlin code, has the behavior, what our main activity is going to behave like. And the activity main XML has the layout, the design. And as you remember, and if you don't, that's fine. This layout is under the resources directory in layout, activity main XML. And just a refresher, we also learned about drawables the last time, and we learned about the values and the strings in the string.xml in there. Now, let's go back. Let's just start with our activity main, and we're going to create our layout. What is the layout going to look like? Well, let's go to the bottom. So our layout is going to look like this. So we're going to make a few things. We're going to do a few things. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to drop a button. Remember that we have the palette where we have the different types of views, and we just have to drag a button into our view, and then we have a button. And let me see, I think I can maybe, does that size look good? I think it does. And now, as you remember last time, whenever you insert a new view, there are constraints that you have to set, because we are putting this view inside a constraint layout view, which is a group view, and this is how the views are going to be organized, depending on the constraint that we set. And if the view does not have any constraint, there's this message that says that this view is going to jump to 0, 0 at runtime unless you add constraint. So it doesn't matter where you put it on the screen. When you run it, it's gonna jump over here, and that's not what we want. So what we want to do is we want to look into in the attributes, and you see the constraint widget right here. We can set up the constraints right here. In our case, we're going to constrain this button to the bottom of our text. I'm just going to drag it out. Oops. Yeah, there it is. And then another thing is that now I have a vertical constraint that is attached to the bottom of our text view. We also need some horizontal constraint. So I am going to put one constraint here that pulls my button to one side, but that's not what I want. I want it centered. Then I pull it to the other side. So you see, and I like how these lines looks like little springs, right? So that means both springs are pulling our button to either side with the same strength. So that makes it so our button is centered. And I like that visual of that. Anyway, so we have the button center, and now there is just one thing. So we learned about this, the constraint layout. We learned about the different type of views. So I'm not going to go over a lot of that today. I'm just going to say that if you look at the XML, if you look at the code in here, this is the outer outer view, and everything that is inside there, it will be contained within this constraint layout, and then there's a hierarchy in here, so they belong inside this constraint layout. That's all I'm going to say. Let's go back to our design view. Now we position our button the way we want it. Now this button text is not very descriptive, so we want something that tells us what the button is going to do. So we're going to change that to, say, roll. Okay, and that is done as we saw last time in the text attribute of our button. And when we do this, this will also change in the code right here. You can change it here, but why will you when you can do it in the design view, right? Now there is another warning, and we saw this warning at the very end of our last study jam session. And this warning is there because it's telling us that roll, that text that we just wrote right there, is hard-coded. It's a hard-coded string. What hard-coded means is that we wrote that there, and in order to change it, we will have to go and then change that. And what if I want to make my application so it has different languages? What if I want it in Spanish? How will I do that? I will have to go and change everything in the application to Spanish, right? And that's not what we want. We don't want hard-coded strings in our application. What we want to do is we want to use what are called string resources. The ones that I told you are here in values, strings XML. Now, Kotlin is, Android Studio is very nice because it provides a very quick fix right here. That button right there, we just click it, and it will extract this hard-coded data and turn it into a resource name and put it in this string XML, and it's done. We don't have to do anything. So I just click OK because everything looks good. Yeah, roll. I'll say, yeah, resource name. And then I'll say OK. So you see, in the text, it changed to using this string roll button resource. And if we go to strings XML, you will see, roll button, and that is the value. And all I need to do, if I want to change the language of our application, is to create another string resource for that language, and whenever I make up my app so it uses that string resource, and everything will change accordingly, which is nice. That's what we want. We want things to be easier for us. We don't want to make our lives hard. At least I don't. Now, the another thing is that our hello world, it's pretty small. So if we run our application, let's see, right here. It's the emulator is running. I'm gonna make this one. So, loading. Let's read down below first. Sure. Okay, that is what it's going to look. Okay. Where is my application? Oh, come on, Kotlin. Okay, there it goes. Okay, so here we have it. You see hello world. It looks pretty small. Huh? What if this hello world were only a number? If all I had in here was, instead of hello world, the number 1. Look at how small that would look like. No, we want something bigger. So let's look for the text size. Text size, and I'm gonna set it to, I think, 34, 36 is what's recommended. And so yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. And that's emulator is down here. And I still have the old one. And I'm not going to run it again. It just takes too long to load. I'm going to run it. So now that is in the text. In the text attribute. This text shows when we run our application, right? We saw that. Now we don't want that. We don't want people to see what is being rolled. So but if we delete that text, it won't show up on the screen. You can run the app and it won't show on the screen. So I need to reset. Now, what we want to do is in the text view, we want to find the text that has this range right here. You see, there's nothing there, right? And that's usually for the developer. We want to be able to see that number. We want to be able to see what changes when we change different settings. So let's see, where is it? It's telling me to go to text view. Text view.
It's right there under common attributes. So if you go down.
Attribute. Oh yes, I see it. Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome. It's kind of hard to find because unlike text, which you can find by searching for it in the search bar, it didn't seem like to me when I was looking for the ones with the wrench, it didn't show up for not just text but for other ones as well.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's what I saw. I thought I could just type text in here and it would show up, but it doesn't. So that's good to know. So it's super hidden. Under common attributes, we have the 2 texts. The first one, that's the one that's going to show up whenever you run the application. And we have this text with a wrench. This is only for the developer. When you deploy the application, your users are not going to see it. But when you are testing right now, you will see it. And now that's what we want. So let's see. Let's just run our app again. Let's open the emulator. And let's see if I can just restart the activity itself without having to reload the app. So it's faster. Did it? Yeah. So it reloaded. You see, there's no 1 there. The 1 doesn't show up. That's what we want. That's what we want. Now we have our app with a button and nothing else, which is right there. Now let's go to the next one. So what is an activity? That is the main question, right? What is this activity with this main activity over here? An activity is basically the screen. When you open your application, what you see on the screen, that is being defined by an activity class. And don't worry about all this for the moment. But let's just say that Android, the Android development kit provides for us a lot of things. And it provides this app compat activity. It provides this activity from us, and we just have to inherit from that activity. And this app compat activity has different behaviors. It has a lot of methods that we can use, or we can, in this case, override. And it has this method on create. It's very descriptive, right? When is this method run? When the activity gets created. So when the activity gets created, this onCreate methods run, and then it sets the content view. It sets the view what you're seeing on the screen according to what is described in the activity underscore main, and that is activity underscore main.xml, which is part of the resources layout. And I like this. I like this big R right here, right? What is this big R? This big R is like a container. This is like a big box. It's a toolbox. Inside this R, so that's the equivalent of saying resources. And I like that it's uppercase because it contains a lot of things for us. It has the drawable directory. It has the layout. And as part of the layout, activity main is part of it. And you don't need to add the XML because they are all XML, so it doesn't matter. But the important thing is that you can reference what is in your resources folder using this notation. Resource, there's a big R, layout, activity main. And Android knows that it needs to use this to show you your application. That's basically what we can gather from that. And we're going to enable auto import. And there is another thing here. Let's see. Yes, instance. Bundle question. Activity. Oh, so you see these imports right here. When you want to use something that is included in the development kit that Android gives us, usually you have to write that import in there. Let's say we want to use a widget, right? There is this Android widget button in there. This button is the equivalent of this widget right here, right? We can create an instance. This button is a class, and we create an instance of that button by saying, I want a val over button equal button. Now, the thing is, look at this. It's telling me that there is no, oh, I think I have already done this before, because it imported the button from there. And the way we get the button, we can just instantiate it like this. And that's why it's giving me that. I have to get it from the resources. But I wanted to show you that Android Studio imports this for you automatically, but you have to set it up. And the way you set this up is you go to File, New Project Settings, Preferences, File, File, New Project Settings, Preferences. Settings running project. I think that's the one. And then we want to alter settings and want to go to auto import. And then we have to set the add unambiguous import on the fly for both Kotlin and Java. And the big word here is unambiguous, meaning that if Kotlin can determine what class you are using for instantiating an object, it will import that class. Now Kristen, what does it mean to import something?
So it's importing something that's not automatically included. So Kotlin has these packages in it, but it's not going to include them unless you tell it, hey, I need this package. Can you bring it over here so I can use this package?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not included. If we try to use it, it's not going to be there. And usually you have to write these imports yourself. Android Studio makes it so you don't have to. And if it can tell what you're trying to create, if you can tell where that is located in a different package, in a different library, it will import it for you. So that is great.
And
so now
it's so nice Android Studio to use that, because sometimes if you have an IDE that does not, then if you misspell the package, it will not work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here is how you get a button from in Android Studio. And as I said before, these resources are part of the big R. The big R is like a collection of resources, and everything that you add in here to your layout in main activities, it becomes a part of the resources, and you can get them. And the way you do that is, let's say we're going to declare a holder for a role button. And we're going to say that this is a button. Remember, this is how you would declare what type that variable is. And then we're going to go and find that button, and the method to do that is find view by ID. Now, you see out there, you see how this Android widget.button just popped up out of nowhere. As soon as I finish this, Android Studio just got me the class that I needed, and that's great. And where do we find this button? So in R, you see R has all these things, has the layout, and it has something called ID. And the R.ID contains all these widgets that have an ID. Let's see the code split. You see how they have an ID right here. The ID of this one is text view. The ID of our button is, well, this button. So that's the one that I'm going to use. ID, and I said button. And now I got a button. So what can I do with this button? I can probably change the text. and I can do other things. And I can make that button behave. I can give it a behavior that is going to be run when you click on it. And the way you do that is we have this set on click listener, and this is a listener. This is a word that you're gonna hear a lot whenever you're dealing with applications that have buttons, that have widgets, and react to user input. So think of it as what the name says, a listener. Whenever you click the button, it makes a noise. It hears that and runs whatever function you're telling it to run. And now let's do that. Let's see what the syntax is. So the way you do this, and this is interesting because you look at the syntax. The syntax is very different than what you're probably used to on Java, and it looks like you're declaring a function, right? And that's essentially what it is. It is a function. It is something that will run whenever you click on the button. So it is a function, and you could declare this outside and then just pass it on, or you can do it here inside. You can define the behavior here, and here, just so we can see what happens, and we can see something really quickly. We're going to do it. We're going to create this toast. And what is a toast? When I make a toast to friendship or something like that. But a toast is this message that pops up. And I'm sure you have seen this. Sometimes you click on something and there's this little message that pops up on the screen on Android applications, and that's what a toast is. So, and the way you declare a toast is it's like that. It's a toast, right? And toast is a class that we have. It's a class that can do a lot of things for us, and one of the things that it can do, it can make text. See, and there are different methods for make text depending on what you're giving it. These are overridden methods, but you don't have to worry about what that is for now. And we're gonna say make text, and the first thing is the context. Where is this text going to run on? And I'm gonna say this is going to run on this this activity, right? That's the context. And the next thing that we're going to give it is the text message, the text that we want to pop up on that message. And then we're going to say the dice have been rolled. And then the last thing is for how long that text is going to show up on the screen. And toast has this length short, length long, and those are constants that are in there to make it easy for you. You could probably pass just a value in seconds, but let's just use that. Toast.show, this will make it so the toast pops up. We declare the toast, we gave it some values, and that's the same thing that we were doing when we were creating a dice, right? We create a dice and we give that dice some properties. And then in this case, we're telling the toast to show itself. In the case of a dice, we would say roll, give me a number. But in this case, just show. And let's run it. Where is the, I have a problem. No, nothing that's problem from before. Let's run it. Where's my emulator? It's right here. Yeah, I'm going to reload it. Now, when I click the roll, you see dice roll. That is our toast, and it shows for a short period of time, which is what we told it to do. Pop, and I can hear that little pop. Yeah, nice.
It's like the toast that comes out of a toaster. It's like bing, and then the message pops
bing.
up.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. Yeah. That the message just pops up.
Ready.
I like the noise. Now, but what we want is not a toast. We don't want this message to just pop up down here, right? But we want the number to show up on our text view, right? So let's make that happen. So the same way, we got a hold of our roll button. We can get a hold of, and this is another thing that I wanted to tell you. Remember what I said that Kotlin can infer what type the function on the right-hand side of the equal sign is going to return. But in this case, we had to tell it that it's a button. Why? Well, because.
Oh, is it? I was just gonna say, is it because the button is a specialized class?
It's because find view by ID will get us any widgets that are inside r.id, and that can be a text view. It can be a text view, an image view, a scroll view, a button. It can be anything that is inside this, any of these. So it's going to find it, and it will give us that. But we don't know what's coming out of this. So we got to tell it what is coming out of this is a button. That's what we are getting, and I'm sure of that. Now, we can do this in two different ways. We can do it this way, or we can do it this way. And you have seen this in Java. And this will work as well. And now, let's go back to using this, because I like this. I think this syntax is better. I really like this syntax better. But I am going to get the text view, the result text view, and I'm going to do it the other way. And then you will see something nice coming out. When I go and I pick the method, it inserts the square brackets for me, right? So and I tell it it's a text view, and this is nice because it leads me to it. It tells me how I need to write my code. And then what I want is I want the text view, and what is the name of my text view? What is the ID? Text view, of course, yeah, it's text view. Yeah, that is text view. And when you declare a variable and you haven't used it yet, it will show like this, like a dim text. You haven't used it yet, but I am going to do it. I'm going to use it. So what am I going to do with this? So you see how here, instead of showing a toast, that's because this is not what we want. It's good to know about toasting bread. Right? That's not what I want, and so I want. And when I'm going to move this inside, because I don't need it outside of the mouse. And here, So I got a hold of my result text view. And now, if I type result text view, click, and then Under Studio will give me a lot of these attributes, the same attributes that you see when you are here in the activity, in the design view, and you have these attributes here. A lot of these, they're going to pop up, and they're here, right? But yeah, the important thing is that what we want to change is text. That's what we want to change, and we want to change that text to, and it's I'm going to just give it a number, the 6 for now, because we're not getting a random number yet, but a random number is what we will give it later. Now just kind of show us 6. That's it. Let's run it. Let's see if I can just do this without having to reload the whole thing. No, I had to. Okay, so now when I roll it, it shows me the 6. That's all it does for now. But this is just a proof of concept that we can do this, right? And this is usually the way you develop things. You learn how, you know what you want to do. You go, you research, you learn how to do it. And then you write the code to prove that you can do it. And then you go and you perfect that. And then, like, what I'm going to do later is I'm going to use a dice to get a random number instead of just passing a 6. But for now, that's pretty good. We know that it works. Now we're going to add the logic. Let's add some logic to it. And yeah, I am going to see, where do I have it? It's down there. I'm just going to grab the class. I'm going to grab my dice class from here, this class. And I'm just going to copy. And then you see how I have my class activity up there? I am just going to paste my dice class down here. And this is, it is telling me that none sites could be private. Yeah, it's fine for now, because remember, we cannot change it because it is declared as a constant. So that is fine to be public. And what I am going to do is, instead of just setting our result text view to 6, I am going to get a dice. I'm going to declare a dice inside, and the way they're doing it here is, oh yeah, I see. So I could do everything inside this method, but instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want to run just one method, and that's roll dice. I haven't written the method yet, but I'm going to write it, right? And I am going to write the same way this method is written here. I am going to write the roll dice method down here, and I'm just going to declare it right now. And I'm going to declare it private function roll dice. And then you see this. This is nice. I like this. Not yet implemented. And this will get rid of remember how it became red at the beginning because it couldn't find the method that I wanted to use. So since I had a method there, it's not doing anything, but I have it there, and I have this to do. And this is nice because whenever you come back, you will see that there is something that you need to do. You haven't implemented that method yet. And now in our roll dice function, what are we going to do here? What do we need to do in here, Kristen?
To add the functionality, actually, roll dice. So we have to make sure we created the dice, and then we have to call the roll function that's inside of the dice class.
So everything that we want to happen when you click on the button, on the roll button, it's going to be done by this method right here. So I can drag this inside my method. I can drag that. And this is going to make it so when I click, and I'm going to get rid of this because I don't need it. When I click on the button, that number 6 is going to show, right? That's the exact same behavior that we had before. Just now, it's outside of the set on click listener method. And this is what I was telling you before. Like, and usually this is where we went, right? We like our code to be organized in a way that is understandable. And we say a roll button is going to roll a dice when we click on it. And I understand what that means. Now, what rolling a dice means, it's defined down here. But by looking at this, we know what's happening. We know what's going on. Now, inside here, we're getting a hold of our text view. And we're passing it a value. Now, that value is not what we want. We want a random number. So we're going to create a dice here. We're going to declare a variable called name it dice because that's what it is. And we're going to create a dice using our class. And the dice is going to be 6-sided dice. And then from the dice, we're going to use the dice roll to get a number, a random number, or in this case, a dice roll number. Yeah, I'm being verbose, but usually that's fine. And we're going to do the roll, and that gives us a number. So we can use this number instead of the 6. We can say that the text in our view is going to be that dice roll number. Now, text takes a string. It doesn't take a number. It takes a text value. And so it's going to put it in with this quickly red line. And it's going to tell us that it's a type mismatch. And it tells us add toString call. So it's already telling me how to fix it. You see, and I can just click on it and it fixes it for me. And that is great. I love that. I love that I don't have to think too much to fix that. And let's restart the activity. Let's see. Applying changes. And it requires a restart, so then I have to restart it. And terminate. Okay. Quickly. Okay, now let's do a roll. Oh yeah, you see it works.
Woo!
Yay! Okay, so we have a random number that's being generated from using the same class that we already wrote. We wrote this class. We wrote the functionality, and we're using it, and we are showing a random number depending on whatever our dice rolls us.
That was perfect. Let's call a break here. This would be, and then we can pick up right at adopting our good coding practices to refactor our code.
Oh, hey, hello everyone. Welcome back. And we have implemented all the functionality that we want from our application. Now, what else we need to do? So one really good practice is to write comments for your code. This is the way of documenting your code. This is the way you tell other developers what your application does. And you see, this is nice, and I'm going to do it again. The way you comment code is you use this syntax. A comment in Kotlin starts with star backslash and ends with star backslash. And this is for a block, right? Whenever you want to comment a block of code, that's the syntax that you use. Now, there's another syntax for documenting your code, and that starts with backslash star star. Now, Kotlin already knows what you are trying to do. So when you click enter, it sets it up for you. It knows that you want to write a block of code for documenting your class. And then I'm going to say this activity allows the user to roll, and too many else in there, a dice, and view the result on the screen. And I think that's a really good description of what it does. Now, we have this dice method in here that we also implemented, and we have to document as well. What does this do? This roll the dice, and it updates the screen with the result, right? And now we have this other class here that we implemented. What is this? What is this class? This represents a dice with the given number of size, and can return size, and returns a random value within the range when roll. Okay, so yeah, we have documented our code, and now you see this toast back there. I had it before, but now I don't have it. So there's no point on having that import in there. So I can just remove the import. And I usually like compacting my code, and since the variable roll button is connected to the set on click listener, I'm going to remove that line in there because I don't need it. I'm not using this function, so I'm going to remove it. That looks pretty good. That looks like what we want. Here's another thing. In Android Studio, you can go to Edit and select all, or Control A, select all, and then you can go to Code, and you can click Reforma Code. And what this will do is that if your code is formatted in a way that is not compliant with what Kotlin considers good coding practices, it will reformat your code to look like that. And mine didn't change. That means it was already good according to their coding practices. So we're done with this. We have an application that can roll a dice and can show a number based on what the dice rolls on the screen. You can download the solution from here. We use the button, set an on-click listener to roll a dice that uses our dice and gives us a number and presents it on the screen on a text view. That's basically what we have done. Great work. Now go and practice on your own. We're going to continue with the next exercise. The next exercise is adding conditional behavior. So now, there's this question, and I heard this question just like a month ago. What do we make? What do we all make? Depending on what you do for a living, you can make a lot of things. There are a lot of different things. Now, but there's one thing that we have in common, and we all make decisions. And the decision-making also applies to programs. That most programs are a whole bunch of decisions made by the computer based on some Boolean values. And what is a Boolean? A Boolean is it's a value that can only be true or false. That's a Boolean. It can only have two values, true or false. And this is amazing because computers use that. That's the foundation for computer science. It's zeros and ones, true or false. Now, how do we make decisions in Kotlin? How does Kotlin make decisions? Let's go back and let me switch this screen. Let me switch this screen with my Kotlin Playground. Let me get rid of this. I don't need it. Maybe it's not doing anything in there, so I can actually just leave it. But we're gonna make some decisions. We're going to declare a variable, which is a number. I'm gonna give it a number, and then the way you make conditional decisions in computers, in programming languages, is you use the if statement. And the if statement has two things. It has the conditional, and it has the action that is going to be executed if that conditional is met. Now, in that conditional, the conditional goes in between the parentheses right here. We can say if none, if the value of our variable none is greater than 4, then print the variable is greater than 4. Exclamation mark, because I am run it. Oh God, I think I'm gonna get rid of this this class because I think it's slowing things down. Yes. So now, if I change this to be smaller than 4, what will happen? Nothing is printed, because this will only be printed when it's greater than 4. Now, how do we tell Kotlin to print something else if the variable is not greater than 4? Then we use this else. If this, then that, else do this, right? So if it is not, then the variable is smaller than 4. So 3 is smaller than 4. 5 is greater than 4. What if it's 4? Oh, the variable is smaller than 4. That is not true. It is 4. How do we fix this? So there's another thing that we can do. So we can have another else if with a conditional in here. And then we can say else if none equals 4, then the variable is equal to 4. And you see, equal to 4, less than 4, less than 4, greater than 4, right? So this is how you tell Kotlin how to make decisions. So use an if, else, if, else. And this is for everything else, right? This is if it equals 4, if it's less than, and then for everything else, like if I give this 200, it's still greater than 4. So that's good. That is basically that. Now, the class that I removed from there, let me grab it from here. Insert it there. Now, I can get this number from a dice, and I can do this. I can do this, right? Dice, and I can tell it to be 6, and then I can tell it to roll, and it will give me a number just like that. And then based on the number, I would say I will have different values. Oh, this is so now the variable. So I'm gonna say dice roll, and then I'm gonna say, because I want to know what I roll. I'm just gonna do this. Okay, so have some more feedback. You roll a 4. You roll a 3, that's smaller than 4. Roll a 3. Oh my. Let's keep rolling. Roll a 4 equal 2. I want a greater. It's smaller. Oh God, give me a greater. Give me a 6. Give me a 5. At least a 5. Come on. Oh yes, greater than. That's what I wanted to see. So it works, right? Now, what else do we do here? We're using in this pathway. It tells you to go and do it for all the different scenarios, and you can do this, but I don't want to spend my time on that. Gotta be honest with you, I'm a little lazy today. Let's go to this other way of doing things. So this way of making decisions is usually the common way that is used in different programming languages. Now, Kotlin has a different way, another way that is much simpler, and that is called the when statement. This when statement, it's akin to a switch statement that is used in other programming languages. So, but what is a, Kristen, quick question. What is a switch statement?
A switch statement, when it receives the variable, it's going to see whether it matches what's inside. And if it does, then it'll produce the output that matches the case. That's the word.
Yeah, right? So you write it like that. And then you have a default at the very end. So this is what you usually use in different programming languages. And here you just you write your statement, and then here you have to write a break to avoid a fall through. But then it doesn't matter. This doesn't work on Kotlin. Kotlin does it differently. It's the same concept, that instead of using a lot of if else's, if else, you write a when, and you're saying that when this non-variable that you're passing in, when that variable it's equals to something, right? And this is, I'm naming this num, I'm just giving the same name that I had before, but let's say this is a raw result. This is more explicit. This will something that we will understand before better what we're doing. And then inside this, we're gonna and the reason we want to do this is because we want to know that if we define a lucky number, in this case, our lucky number is 4. We define 4 to be the lucky number. If you roll a 4, you win, right? So we say when the roll result is 4, our lucky number, you win. So we write here, when the roll result is our lucky number, then print a line that says you win. So the roll result comes in. When it matches this, you would print this. And this might take a few rolls. Again, to see if I'm lucky. Yay, I won. Okay. And then when I don't win, yeah, keep on winning. When I don't win, nothing is printed because there is not an else statement in there, right? So what I want in reality is, I mean, it's if I don't win and it doesn't show me anything, what is like me as a user, I don't know what's going on. I run it and it doesn't show anything, and I want some more feedback. So I want to say, if the roll result is 1, if it's a lucky number, well, I win, right? If it's 1, oh well, I lost. So sorry. You roll a 1. Try again. Right? If it's a 2, I am just going to print this. I'm going to just copy this. If it's a 2, I want it. Sadly, you roll a 2. Try again. If it's a 3, I'm going to say, unfortunately, you roll a 3. Come up with the next message, Kristen. Can you?
Okay. Don't give up. Oh wait, no. This number 4. Wait. No, number 4 is the one that prints you win.
Oh, number 4. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No, it's got to be 5. Yeah. What do we say? What do we say?
Don't give up, even though you rolled a 5. Try again.
Don't give up, even though you roll a 5. Try again. Okay, and now the last one. Renee, what do you want to say here? She fell asleep.
I know.
What do we say when someone does not roll the winning number?
Try again. That sounds good. You don't have to be encouraging. The person is already sad.
We're just teasing them.
They don't need reminding.
Yeah, I like this. I like that. Don't cry. You roll a 6. Yeah, so anyway, so depending on the number that you roll, one of these is going to be printed to the screen. Don't cry, you roll a 6, and you see, right? Until I want to win. I'm waiting for the you win message. How many times do I have to roll? Oh, I won. Okay, it took like 4 tries, and I could go on and try to make sure it works, but it might become a little tiring. I want to move on, but so the point is that whenever we use a when, and this is in some other programming languages that looks like a switch statement. In case you're familiar with otherwise, just use when. When your raw result matches this is the action that is taken. When it matches this is the action that is taken, and that's what this means.
Question,
so,
Hardy. So if you
yes.
if you move the lucky number where it says, lucky number and then arrow and then print, you win. If you move that to the bottom of all the other ones, would it still do the same thing?
It will. It doesn't matter because it's still, you see, it's only the value that is coming in will match one of these, and that's it. Now, let's see. If you're rolling a 6-sided dice, right? You're gonna get one of these, 1 to 6. Now, what if I roll a 12-sided dice?
Half the numbers that come out wouldn't match any cases.
So I can do this. I don't know. I just make this up.
I don't know. It looks like it will work.
Yeah. Okay. So I roll something that is outside of the range, and you can have this else, like for everything else. So if it matches one of these will be printed. If it doesn't, you can always declare an else, and it will run for everything else.
So is it kind of like the default in the switch?
It's like the default in the switch statement. Yeah, thanks for the question. That's good. Yeah. Anyway, that's what the solution code looks like. Well, I just shifted things around and I added something else, but that's basically it. We have learned how to tell our program how to make decisions in 2 different ways, using if and else statements, and using the when statement. That is great. Go learn more. Learn more about when. Learn more about control flow. So this concept of control flow, this comes from when you make decisions. Usually, those decisions can be expressed as branches on a tree. And every time a decision is made, you follow a different path on this branching away road, and that is called control flow. You control the flow of your program using conditional statements. Anyway, go and learn about all these things. We're going to continue with the next exercise. The next exercise is about adding images to the dice roll application. We're going to, I'm going to switch again. I'm going to move this down. move this down, and I'm going to take my Android app. Okay, and here we are. Here's where we were before. Since we are going to be modifying the layout, we're going to go back to activities _ main XML. And right now, we're just showing a 1. Nothing else is happening. What we want our activity to do is for this number to be different every time you roll the dice, right? And in fact, we want images that represent that number that you roll, just like this one here, to show up. We're going to use the when statement to make the decision to decide which image is the one that's going to be loaded. And let's start. Let's update the layout. So since we don't want this image, we don't want this text view. We want an image. So let's get rid of the text view. We can just delete the text view. I'm just gonna delete, and oh, I just deleted the constraint. I didn't delete I deleted the constraint again. Let me just right-click on it and delete it. Yeah, that's better. That's easier. Now, I'm going to add an image view. I'm just going to drag it. Image view. I'm just going to pick an avatar. And this is the default image that's going to show. I'm just going to pick that one. And I'm going to set the constraints because, again, look at this. Both the buttons and my image don't have constraint. And I like the image to be above the button. Just, yeah. So it looks like the same way as in the image in the app. But this is OK. It doesn't matter. I want the image to be centered. So I'm going to put constraint down here and a constraint to the end of. Can see the end. There we go. There. And also I want this to be centered on the vertical axis. And you see how the button is now it's overlapping. And let's see. And now I want this button to be attached to the bottom of the image. And that looks good. Now I'm going to look at the attributes. I'm going to look at the attributes for the image. That looks pretty good. Now, one thing is that if I run it, the button looks like very close to our app. And I'm not going to run it because it takes time. But you can add to the top constraint. You can add some value to make it so the button is not straight up to the image. So it has a little bit of margin. I'm going to add a 6 in there. So yeah, that's about a good margin. And we have again this this warning, the constraint ratio, and we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that in the next one, I guess. Component tree, constraint layout. This is good for now. Yeah, this is good for now. Now, we have some dice images that we want to use. Those images are going to be part of our drawables, right? Remember last time when we want to add images to our drawable resources, we go to the resource manager. And here we have the plus right here. And we go to the plus, and then we do import drawable. And then I have my drawable somewhere in my downloads. Oh, right there, dice images. And here's the thing, right? I could go and I could select all this just by doing Shift and my arrow keys, or I can select the whole folder and then click OK, and that's going to import all my images. And you see the name dice 1_1_6 2 and all that. Those are going to become the ID of our images. And now everything looks good. I'm just going to import. There are our drawables. Let's go back to the project view. And if we go to our drawable, all our dice images are there. So that is good. Now, how do we use the dice images? So now, instead of using this avatar, we are going to use a dice image. Now, you see this search compact right here, and you see the range to the left of it. That means that this is only going to be visible for the developer. The user is not going to see this, wherever it's in here. I'm going to pick dice 1 in here because and this is useful for me as a developer. It took up all the whole the whole screen.
That's a big dice.
Yeah, right. Oh, we're going to fix this. Now I'm just going down to see what size they are recommended in the app. That is the button. I think it was in the previous image. No, probably in this one. That's what happens when you skip steps. Can somebody find me a good size for these? Oh, it's right there, it's right in front of my nose. So width, and this is something that you usually play with, right? You play with it, and then you find a good width and a good height for your content. And since I'm kind of lazy, I just gonna get whatever they tell me to do. And I am going to select layout width, layout height, layout width, layout height, and they are set to wrap content with layout height, wrap content. Yeah, that is correct. Okay, I'm going to set it to height 200 and width is going to be 160 dp. Remember what dp meant? Do you remember, Kristen?
I saw it and then I have forgotten.
I believe it was density independent pixels, meaning that it will be different for different devices depending on the resolution
Oh.
of your screen.
I did find it. It says it's the same meaning as what you said, but it's device pixels. So it is.
Oh, device.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Device pixels.
Independent pixels. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Device independent pixels. Thank you. Great. Now looks good. Now looks like the way we want it. And well, now we're going to go back, and I'm going to try to run this, but there's going to be an error. And the reason is we see this. We see the text view, right? I deleted that text view, so it won't be able to find it. So now I am referencing something that doesn't exist. So I'm just going to fix that by switching that text view to getting the image view. And instead of, so this is going to be, instead of result text view, I am going to say this is the dice image, and then I am going to get one of the dices. I'm going to get the, what are those called? I'm going to get the image view. And then this won't work because now, and remember I did this text view. So, and I'm going to do it the other way, where I am going to declare the type after, because I like this better. I did the other way just to show you that you can. And now the result text view doesn't exist. Now, dice image has different attributes. Where we want to do is we want to set image result for source, which is the first one that shows up. And our image resource is a drawable, remember? So we're going to take a drawable, and we're going to pick one of them. I'm going to pick dice 2. Because dice 1 is the first one that pops up. And, well, in our case, nothing's going to pop up until we click that button, right? And this should fix the error, but it's just going to show dice 2. It's not going to show anything else because we haven't given our application the ability to do so. And we're going to do it. So when we click roll, a dice pops up. That's what we want. That's what we're telling it to do at the moment. That's not what we want for our final product, but for now, that is good. Now, so that fixes that. Now, what we want to show the user the right image. And the way we do that, we could do that with a lot of if statement, if this, then that, but it's easier to use a when. It's easier to use a when, and then we have our dice roll number. And here, we're going to say that when the dice gives you a different number, we're going to set the image to a different image. If it's a 1, then we are going to set the dice image, set image resource to image 1, right? Drawable dice 1, right? Now I'm just going to copy all this, and I am going to do it for all the rest. How many of them do we have? 2, 2, 3, 3. Now, 4, 4. Pardon all the silence. I am working away. And then 6, 6, and then 6. So now I don't need this. So this now is more close to the behavior that we want. Terminate, reload. And now when we click the button, the dice, it should roll a different number. Yay, 6.
It's so cool.
2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 5. Yeah, I think we got them all. 1. Yeah, I think we got them all. That's enough testing, and it's usually a good idea. Why did I test all of them, Kristen? Why did I click that button so many times?
You wanted to make sure that, well, you want to make sure that the images were working, and that, you know, actually for me, when I was doing this pathway, my dice 1 image was not working. So when I clicked on it, it was giving me an error. So I had to delete the file that wasn't correct and re-upload it. So you want to test your applications as much as, you know, as much as reasonable to make sure that things are going to look good for your users.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly, because sometimes unexpected things happen, and like we are, as a developer, we are so sure our code is perfect, but we had to test it. We had to make sure that is actually true. Now, there's another thing with the when. When, you see how when looks just like a function. It is, in fact, a function. And when can return a value. And this is amazing because I didn't know this. And like, instead of setting this, you see how all of them, what they're doing is they're setting the image. You can make it so when returns a drawable. And then the way you do it is just say when it's going to return me a drawable resource, and this is just the name. This is just a name, and this means nothing in the sense that it doesn't. I can name it whatever I want, and then I can, instead of setting the image, I can just select the drawable that I want to return, and there is a squiggly red line up there, and I'm going to just hover over it and let you think about it for a moment. It says when expression must be exhaustive, add necessary else branch. So what do I need to do, Kristen?
So is it like when you have a switch, you want to have a default in case like one of the cases doesn't match?
So think about a function that has to return a value.
I see. So it's not if one of the cases doesn't match and return a drawable, then nothing's going to be returned. It would just return
nothing. Is going.
Nothing. So you have to make sure that something is going to be returned.
So what I'm going to do, I am going to turn that 6 into an else, meaning that I'm sure that this will return me a value. And in this case, my dice is 6-sided, right? So it's always going to be one of them. And if it's not any of the first 5, then 6 is going to be returned. And that works. And then now, since I have my drawable from when, here I can take my image and I can set the image resource to the one that was returned to me by when, and then I can just update, and the behavior doesn't change. But why did I do that? Why is this better than what I had before? Any ideas?
Is it more efficient?
It's not really more efficient, but you see how I was repeating this all along this path. Now, I can extract this logic into one piece, and then this is what's drawing the image. And I don't have to copy this. And I can just change the drawable name, right? And it's easier. It's just easier as a developer. Changing this code is easier than the way I had it before, because now my image is set only in one spot.
That's true. Yeah, because if you have all repetition in somewhere else, it can make it harder to read. And also, if you change one thing, like if the dice roll is 1 and you want to be the same for all of them, you would have to make sure that you have it exactly the same on all the other numbers as well. Yes.
Now, there's one more thing that we're going to do, and this is the last thing that we need to do to complete our application. Now, when you roll an image, when you have an image on the screen, for people that are either blind or cannot see very well, there is usually this accessibility feature where it's going to the description of the image is going to be read to you, right? That is defined by this content description. Right now, there's no content description, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this image content description be based on whatever the dice roll gave me. So I'm going to give it the dice roll number to string value. So that's going to be either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So whenever you roll a dice, that number will be read to you. And even if you can't see very well, you will know the result. So that is, and now adopt good coding practices. Here, you want to comment your code, and this is whenever you code has something that you think might not be understandable, like not everybody will get what your code is doing. In this case, I think this is too much commenting. Like, update image view with the correct drawable resource ID. Set image resource drawable resource, and it's coming from this. I think these comments are maybe too verbose.
I've heard before actually about comments is that it's similar to what we just talked about a few minutes ago. It's like, if you change your code, then you have to remember to update your comments as well. Otherwise, they won't match anymore. So it's good to use comments, but you don't have to make them very long, especially if things are self-descriptive. So if you make your variable and function name self-descriptive, then when you change those, it'll change the documentation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think your code should be self-descriptive, and it should tell you what it does based on the name of your variables. And for often enough, there are things that are not so clear. So writing comments for those is really good, and I agree. But in this case, I don't think that applies. But that's my opinion. And now, solution code, summary, and that's about it. I think we are done with the series, and we have an app that I'm reloading. This is the last time I want to do this, I promise.
There is one
here's
thing.
The thing.
Yeah,
there's one thing.
I think
yes.
you know what it is.
Yes, I just, because I ran it, yes. So when the application starts, there is nothing on the screen. There's no dice or anything. That's not what we want. We want our user to to kind of get an idea of what they are going to see when they click roll, right? Or that they actually have to click roll. They might not even know. So we're going to do that on the onCreate, right? So the same way we set the image right here, we can do that right here. I'm gonna do that before the button, so it makes more sense. And this is the last thing. I'm going to get a hold of the dice image by getting, it's gotta be an image view. And I am going to find view by ID, get the ID image view, and then I am going to say dice image, set image for source, and I'm just gonna pick one. I'm just gonna do, dice one, right? So when the application gets created, gets drawn first, something shows. That's all we're doing here. Let's run the emulator again, terminate and restart. And there we go. So now we have a dice, and then we can roll it.
And this looks so nice, and it's very cool because, you know, like if you play any sort of game, right, or something where you want to roll a dice, this is actually this code would be very similar if you want to do like a coin flip app, right? You could have 2 pictures of a coin and just have it, you know, choose between 2 numbers, and it's fun. You could be like, oh, hey, let me get out my custom-made dice rolling or coin flipping app. And then
yeah. Somebody asked, like, who's got a dice? I have one.
Yeah, it's on your phone.
And I made it myself, right?
Mm-hmm. And you could put 2 dice on there if you want, with different that way you could, you know, you can have multiple dice on there, all sorts of different things you can do to customize this.
Yeah. So yeah, go and practice. Then there's the next thing is there's a video. I'm not gonna play it because like there's no sound, and I don't think it will be useful. But you go and watch that. And there is this Lemonade app that you can make, and this is, I'm not gonna go over this because this is meant for you to practice on your own. And this is really good. You should go and do it because this gives you a basic description of what this app is supposed to do. It gives you the specifications. It gives you the specs, and that's what they're called, right? What your application should do, and you're gonna go and code it on your own. And you know enough to build this app already. So you should be able to just go and just start creating your app and do it. And if you get stuck, we are on Discord, and you can post your questions over there. This is the end of Pathway 4. We just be ready for Pathway 3, because that's coming. And that's session 3, actually. This is going to be the different pathways. We are going to be creating some amazing apps during the rest of the series, and you should stay tuned. And even if you were not present for session 1 and 2, if you watch these videos, you should be able to pick up and come to session 3 and come, because it's interactive, and you should be able to ask questions in person, and we will answer right there if we know the answer. Otherwise, we might get back to you. Thank you, everybody, and continue learning, continue practicing, explore, and do what you love. Thank you.
See everybody. Bye.